Hi, student. Good morning. Today we are going to discuss topic number 10 of IGCSE biology, and the title of this topic, is disease and immunity. So, firstly, we should understand these two terminology, that what the disease is and what is immunity. So, see here, disease is an abnormal condition that affects the structure or function of part or all parts of body that is usually associated with specific signs and symptoms. Okay, so this is we call it the disease. Now, what about the immunity? Immunity is the self-defensive mechanism against the disease or against the germs. Okay, due to which the body just defend itself. Okay, so this is we call as the immunity. So there are different ways of immunity that we have to discuss, and there are different type of disease that we have to discuss in this topic. Okay, so let's start the topic number, the subtopics. Okay, of this. So see, firstly, the pathogens. We should know what the pathogen is. See, pathogen is a disease-causing organism. Mean any organism that causes disease. It may be the bacteria, virus, okay, fungus. Okay, so any organism that causes disease called as pathogen. So pathogen are passed on from one host to another, and therefore the disease they cause are known as transmissible disease. Means some disease are caused from one person to another person. They are transferred, they are transmitted from one person to another person. So this type of disease we call as transmissible disease. Specifically, some viral disease, some bacterial disease, even some fungal disease, are transferred from one person to another person. So these disease called as transmissible disease. So pathogens can be passed on from host to host in different ways. Yeah, means the question arises that how the pathogens or disease causing organism is transmitted from one person to another person. Okay, and what are the sources by which these germs transferred from one person to another person. So there are basically two ways. One way, direct way, another is indirect way. Now, what about the direct way? The pathogen is passed directly from one host to another by transfer of body fluid such as blood or semen. Okay, so if this transmission is direct, means when the fluid of two persons just combine, okay, or the semen. So it causes the direct contact of disease. Okay, for example, the virus, HIV, gonorrhea, hepatitis B and C. Now another way is the indirect contact. Okay, so the pathogen leaves the host and is carried in some way to another way. Okay, so this is another method of the transmission, that is the indirect contact. Now here we are going to discuss the detail of method of transmission, and what are the ways by which the disease is spreading from one person to another person. So the first method of transmission is the droplets in air. In the air, there is some germs in the air. There are some germs, okay, which are transmitted from one person to another person. For example, if you are having a sneezing or cough, okay, so during sneezing or coughing, the germs is spread, okay, in the air, and they are found in the droplets of air. And when the same droplets or air particles are to be inhaled by other person, then the different disease are transferred. For example, common cold and influenza. Second method of transmission is food or water. If the food that we are taking is contaminated, or the water that we are taking is contaminated, it contains some fecal materials. So this is also another way of transmission. And which disease are caused, like cholera, typhoid, and dysentery? Touching contaminated surfaces. Yes, if we just touch the contaminated surface, and this same same contaminated surfaces, either by inhaling or like, by touching. And when we touch our hands with our face, so it also transferred through our nose, through our respiratory system, or by digestive system by the mouth. So an athlete food, salmonella can be transmitted on the if on the feet of flies who land on food that is then eaten. Now insect bite, yeah, another way, a transmission of disease, insect bites, like, the example malaria and dengue fever, because some germs are found in the mouth of mosquito when it bites. So it just transmit plasmodium, that is a parasite, okay, into the human. So this condition, we call as the malaria. And dengue fever, it is caused by some of the virus, okay, but the causative agent or the vector, is some mosquitoes. Now, how can we defense our body against these pathogens? So see here, there are three main ways in which the body defends itself against the disease. Now, what are these three ways? Some ways, are natural, like, the God has gifted to us. For example, like, the skin, skin, is a type of mechanical barrier that covers almost all parts of your body to prevent the infection from the pathogen. If it is cut or grazed, it immediately begins to heal itself, often by forming a scab. Here in the nose, yes, whenever, like, we just inhale any germs, okay, so here in the nose, they trap these germs, okay, and prevent these germs to enters into the lungs. Now another way, is a chemical barrier. Okay, you can see on the screen that substances produced by the body cells that trap or kills pathogens before they can get further into the body and cause disease. Now in chemical barriers, we have to discuss the mucus and the stomach acid. In the mucus, there are some pathogens, okay, they get trapped in the mucus and then can be removed from the body by coughing, blowing the nose, and swelling, etc. Now stomach acid, the wall of the stomach, secretes some acid, that is hydrochloric acid. It also has the capability to kill the germs. Okay, so when we get or when we eat contaminated food or unhygienic food, so if this food contains the germs, so they when the food enters into the stomach, so the HCl, hydrochloric acid of stomach, can kill the germs. The third way, is the cellular way, like, when like, the germs crosses, like, all the barriers, okay, and it enters into the blood streams, okay, so in the blood, there are some specific cells which are responsible to defend our body. And in the blood, there is a phagocytic cells and lymphocytes, they are responsible to make antibodies, okay, which react with the antigen of germs, and they make the network of antigen and antibody. Okay, after that, this network is to be engulfed by the phagocytic cells. Okay, so this type of a defense system called as a cellular defense system. Now antigen antibodies, how, like, the antigen antibody react. So you can see here the antigen, this is also the protein which is secreted from the pathogen. And antibodies, they are released by lymphocytic cells which are found in the blood. So when the pathogen secretes some chemicals, okay, so these chemicals are trapped by the antibodies, and then they make the antigen antibody complex. After that, this antigen antibody complex is to be engulfed by the phagocytic cells. You can see here in the next diagram, you can see that how the phagocytic cells reach to the antigen antibody complex and engulf it. Now there are different ways of or method of immunity or types of immunity, that is active immunity and passive immunity. So we are going to discuss the active immunity first. Making antibodies and developing memory cells for future response to infection is known as active immunity. There are two ways in which the active immunity response happens. Okay, the body has become infected with a pathogen, and so the lymphocytes go through the process of making antibodies specific to that pathogens. For example, like vaccination. Okay, if somebody could get vaccine, okay, so this vaccine also provide the active immunity. Now another way of active immunity, another types of immunity is passive immunity. This is when the ready-made antibodies from another source are introduced to the body. Passing immunity is fast acting short term defense against a pathogen by antibodies acquired from another individual. For example, like you see, the antibodies transfer from mother to the fetus, or mother to the infant, okay, by like the breastfeeding. When like when there is a birth of baby, then the baby feed the mother. Okay, so in the mother milk, breast milk, it contains antibodies. And these antibodies, this is the natural way, this is the best antibodies, okay, which enable the infant to fight against the disease. This is important as it helps very young to fight off infection until they are old and stronger, and their immune system is more responsive. Another way is injected antibodies. Yes, for example, like if there is a tetanus germs, or the rabies germs are there. Okay, so artificial antibodies can be injected, which produce the passive immunity. Now, disease caused by the immune system. Yes, what are the disease that is caused by the immune system? Okay, so see here, occasionally the cells of the immune system start to attack the body own cells. This is rare as lymphocytes usually recognize their own body cells by antigens on the cell's surfaces and do not respond to them. In this situation, specific body cells are targeted by lymphocytes and antibodies are made against them and destroying them. One example of this type of disease, is type 1 diabetes. This is type 1 diabetes. Okay. In type 1 diabetes, what happens? Specific body cells are targeted by lymphocytes. Okay. Means like, our own lymphocyte, target our own specific body cells. Okay. Now, peoples who suffer from this disease no longer make their own insulin. Okay, and so are unable to regulate their blood glucose level. Means they are going to have like the diabetes because they are unable to maintain the level of glucose. You know very well that when the level of sugar become high in the blood, then pancreas secretes insulin, and this insulin lower the level of glucose. But in this disease, the insulin is not secreted, or it's not working. This is because their immune system is targeting and destroying the pancreatic cells, which are responsible for making insulin. Okay, so this disease we call as type 1 diabetes. Now here we will also talk about the vaccination process. See, what is vaccination? A dead or attenuated version of pathogen is given to the patient. Means we just like we just take the pathogens. Okay, and in each pathogen, there are two part. One is antigenic part, another is pathogenic part. So what we do, we just remove the antigenic part from the pathogen, okay, which we also call as a dead form or attenuated form, and this part is to be inserted or injected into the human or into the animals. And then animal cells, specifically, the lymphocytes, they make antibodies against this attenuated part or the dead part of the germs. The antigen evoke an immune response in which the antibodies are produced. The memory cells are produced, which stay in the body, giving long-term immunity. Okay, and this type of immunity, is a long-term immunity. Vaccination can be used to control the spread of disease by providing herd immunity. This is where a large amount of the population is vaccinated. So, what is herd immunity? Herd immunity means the large amount of population is to be vaccinated and are thus immune to the pathogen. So, the disease cannot spread as there are only a few people left who can still become infected. The few the few that cannot be vaccinated, for example, due to medical reasons, are therefore protected against the disease. So this is the whole process of vaccination and what is the advantage of vaccination and how the person is to be vaccinated. Now come to the another topic. It's about the measure to prevent the spread of disease. Okay, what are the different measures, okay, that is responsible to stop the spreading of the disease. Okay, so how it works, so we are going to discuss it in this topic. Hygienic food preparation. Yes, if you are going to just make the hygienic food preparation, okay, or if you are, the food that we are taking, okay, it is hygienic, so of course, the germs are not going to be enters into the body. So how it works? See, keep food cold, so bacteria and fungi reproduce more slowly. Yes, if you are going to keep the food in the cold place in the refrigerator, so in the refrigerator, the temperature is very low, so this temperature is not favorable for the uh, proper growth of bacteria and fungus. Prepare food hygienically to avoid the contamination. Okay, another, cook food well, long enough at high temperature. Yes, at high temperature, the bacteria are killed. Okay, bacteria or the fungus are killed. So if you are if we eat the little hot food, okay, so uh, we are going to be saved from the disease. Cover food to prevent the flies. Yes, if you keep the food, okay, covered, so the flies cannot sit on the food, because the flies sit on dirty places, and they just stick the germs, and when the same flies sit on our food, so it transfer the germs, and these flies act as a vector. Use separate chopping boards. Yes, for chopping board for meat and the vegetables should be separated, because what happens in the meat chopping board, the blood just stay in the creaks of the board, and when the same board is to be used for the vegetable or to making the salad, okay, so the germs enters into that vegetables or the salad, okay, and this salad when is to be eaten, then the germs enter into the body. But see here, if you are using the separate meat chopping board, so this meat has to be cooked, okay, and given the high temperature. Even if the germs enters into the meat, then these germs are going to be killed. But if on the same chopping board, if the salad is to be cut, okay, then the salad is not to be cooked. So that's what there should be the separate chopping boards of meat and vegetables for making salad. Wash hand after using the bathroom. Yes, after the bathroom, okay, we should wash hand with a proper antigenic soap, so that the germs or the fecal material, okay, is to be removed from the hand. Now, personal hygiene. Yes, we also care about personal hygiene. For example, washing with soap remove substances which trap the pathogen, as well as the pathogen themselves, uh, from the skin. And now use the tissue paper, okay, use a tissue paper or clean towel, okay, so that, like, the person is not going to have the germs on his hands, okay, because these hands, sometime we put this hand on the face, so maybe, it can transfer, but with the help of same hands, we are eating food, so the the germs, enters from or transfer from hands to the food, and in this way the germs are going to be entered. Now, waste disposable. Yes, see here, waste food is a food source for flies that can act as a vectors for transmissible disease, and so should be disposed of in a sealed container. Okay, another, the rubbish bins should be covered, okay, all rubbish should be stored before collections away from the human uh, habitations. So the west west should be, west should be disposed of, okay, as soon as possible. Now, sanitation. See, home and public places should have plumbing and drains to safely remove faces and waste which can carry pathogens. Okay, because, uh, sanitations in sanitary things, has some germs. Okay, it has to be also, disposed of as soon as possible. So now this is about the disease and immunity. Okay, if you have any confusion, any questions, okay, you can ask me. Okay, my WhatsApp number is there. Okay, my email address is also there. You can also, like, find the same lecture on the YouTube or the TikTok. Okay, so in the comments you can write it down, okay, what new topics you want, okay, and if there is a need of further explanation, okay, you can ask me. Okay, so thank you very much, take care.